Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of things that are soon to come on the earth. I was doing a little studying of this afternoon, and I already picked out some scriptures. Well, actually, some information from this book, and then I had to go run an errand real fast, and the story popped up about how Deshaun Jackson decided he has agreed to go to Auschwitz in order to get a much better understanding of the Jewish plight. And it was just funny because these few passages from this book go exactly with this whole situation. So we're going to get into this right now. It's funny because of this. This is how it's going right now. So Deshaun Jackson shared some comments, but everyone has attacked him. He had to go and talk to Edelman from the New England Patriots. It's like we're not allowed to come up and bring up anything about ourselves. We are not allowed to, try to find out who we are. We're not allowed to try to figure out, and from the Bible's perspective, who is who. Everything is what they say. Now we're not allowed to actually think about all of the plight, all the slavery, all the death, all the destruction that we have encountered here in these lands. Like, this is off limits. To sit here and talk about what's happened to us here is off limits. All of a sudden now, after 500 plus years of them destroying us, they're now willing to, acknowledge that they've done some things to us. But if we say anything that's out of line of what they say, it's like, hey, you need to come over here to the three parts. You need to figure out you need to learn about all the things that happened over here. You need to learn about all of the death and destruction that's happened over here. All the while, the people over there have cared nothing about what's happened to us. Why should we care about what's happened between, the other nations killing each other? Their whole excuses for us. They don't care about us, right? They love to say, "Oh, well, look at Chicago. What about black on black crime?" See, they haven't cared about black on black crime this whole time. So why should we care about white on white crime? Why is it so important for us to learn about when white people kill other white people when they have ignored black on black crime all the time? They always say, "Oh, well, black people are killing other black people, so what does it matter if cops do it?" That's what they do all the time. Oh, well, we'll worry about you guys, or we will care about you guys as soon as you care about yourselves. So why exactly is it then and so important for us to have, for like when Deshaun Jackson says something, for him to have to atone and be fined and go talk to this person who survived Auschwitz or survived going to a concentration camp? Have you guys talked to anybody here who survived for the last going through the civil rights movement? Have you guys talked about people who have been lynched and their families? Have you guys done nothing? But all of a sudden, if we say something that goes out of line, we have to go and show how down we are with your struggle, when you guys have not been down with our struggle whatsoever. It was talked about, I said, all this money goes to all these other nations from here, from these lands. Why are we paying billions of dollars for something we didn't do? That's the whole thing, what people love to say. Oh, well, I didn't own slaves, so I don't know. I don't need to pay you guys anything. I haven't done anything wrong to you. I'm not racist. So why should I have to pay anything? You see what I'm saying? Like, but for them, it's, oh, hold on, we're going to give them $10 billion every single year. Why? What are we getting for all that money? You see, they said total double standards. So it's just funny how listening to, coming up with these passages first, and then listening to, it was Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Of course, Max gets to go. It's like a 4-minute clip. Max gets to just go on and his rant for 3 minutes, and then pretty much Stephen A. just gets to pretty much just co-sign everything that Max Kellerman said. Pretty much told Deshaun Jackson he just needs to shut up. You see that I guess he's not. No one's allowed to have a First Amendment rights. No one's allowed to talk about have their own opinions on anything. But see, this is what they keep saying. People are ignorant. Hey, you're ignorant. You're ignorant. If you have those kinds of views, you're ignorant. Well, see, let's check this out. The Two Seeds of Genesis 3:15. This book, if you're ignorant, you would think then, hey, go read some books, go get some information, in order to educate yourself, right? So this would be a great book to introduce, to actually introduce to people and actually be able to read. It'd be a great book to get, but it's currently unavailable, and it's been unavailable for a very long time. Well, it's kind of hard to do a lot of research if these books are thousands of dollars or they're just unavailable. The Two Seeds of Genesis 3:15. It is crazy because these are like white on white crimes. White people talking about other white people. Ish seems to think that they're not white people, I guess. They like to just do these broad generalizations, these broad strokes, like all black people are all the same. So why is it, that with this book, this is a white guy talking about other white people? Same thing. So you can get a lot of good information when they're talking about each other. When they're willing to actually, they've done a lot of research. This guy's done a lot of research on this book right here. I said I brought it up a few times, but this works out perfectly because, when Deshaun Jackson just kind of even brought up the whole subject of us being actually the children of the Most High, you saw how they all reacted and how they're still reacting. But now we're understanding why. This is talking about how even Jewish people didn't believe they were the real chosen people of the Most High. And that's what we're going to read a little bit today. So it's not even us saying it. It's not Deshaun Jackson. It's not anybody else saying it. It's it's Jewish people telling you that they're not the people, that they don't fit. They don't fit all the things that are, positive, that you need to be calling yourself the Most High's chosen people. But see, if anyone even just asked that question, you saw how Deshaun Jackson got treated and got attacked. They just can't say, hey, we went through slavery in Exodus. That's what I hear all the time. Oh, yeah, we know how it is for you guys because we were enslaved too. No, really? Yeah, you need to prove that. I'm not going to just, co-sign on that anymore. I haven't co-signed on that in a long time. So you're telling me that you guys were the same people that were enslaved during the time of the Exodus. Okay. So there's a whole lot of other prophecies you have to fit going forward as well. And you guys don't fit any of these prophecies. Going into slavery on slave ships, losing your identity. That didn't happen to any of you guys. So they always love to be the Mr. Me Too's. Everybody wants to be Mr. Me Too. I've had it rough just like you guys. But that's again because they're talking about the three parts. They're trying to make sure that everything fits over there. It makes a lot of sense now. I said everything has to fit over there. None of the stuff happened over here. That's what they love to say. But the prophecies are being fulfilled right here. So yeah, so if you wanted to even get this book to do your own research, you can't get it because it's not available. If you can find it somewhere else, please do and try to get it. But I said it's been out of people's grasp for a very long time. But we're going to read a little bit from the book right here. Let me see here. This is on page 381. Who are the modern Jews? Okay, so let's see what they say about themselves. Okay. In this age of brain-dead media programmed zombies, would it still be possible for the facts to speak? If so, there is something worth saying about the modern Jewish race. Okay? Not written by anti-Semites, but by Jews themselves. See, anybody who says anything is an anti-Semite. This has been the whole time. But Jews themselves have said this, okay? But Jews themselves. And where else but in the Jewish Encyclopedia? Please excuse me for being so abrupt, but I had to get your attention. You see, this article is worth reading because it has some facts that you need to know about the authenticity of today's Jewish race. The question that must be asked as well as answered is simple. Are the modern Jews really the descendants of the ancient people of Israel? The source of our information is quite simple: the Jewish Encyclopedia. Hopefully, we will not find any anti Semitism in the writings of the Jewish scholars. However, the reader should be forewarned. Their articles were written long before the age of mass media, social engineering, and do not contain any of the familiar buzzwords common to today's new social views. In other words, brace yourself for a factual scientific analysis, okay, of the racial origins of the modern Jews. Oh, and should you decide to verify any of these facts, you will find them in your local library in the 1901 through 1905 edition of the Jewish Encyclopedia. So please do read on. At the turn of the last century, there was great interest stirring in the science of anthropology. In the wake of this, Jewish scholarship turned its watchful eye upon itself and began to examine the racial claims that modern Jews make to the ancestral heritage of ancient Israel. The results were startling. The religious community found itself completely alienated by its scientific counterpart. The scientific method was coming face to face with religious tradition. So see, they got their traditions, but scientific, the science is not matching up, not whatsoever. All right. So we'll go with religious tradition. And there was a great unsettling in the land. The facts were telling a different story than what had been heard for centuries in the local synagogue. Okay. In his article, on purity of race, Joseph Jacobs, relates something of the dilemma that was gripping the Jewish community at this time. He writes, "The question whether the Jews of today are the main descended from the Jews of Bible times and from them alone is still undecided." So there's nothing, just like normal. There's nothing to prove what they say. It's undecided even in the 1900s. So that's why they get so upset when you start to pull back the curtain and take a look at them. Then they get so upset about you even taking a look because they said who they are, and you're not allowed to actually question anything. So let's read that again. The question whether the Jews of today are in the main descended from the Jews of the Bible times, and from them alone is still undecided. You guys can read right there where it comes from. What a startling statement to come from a Jewish scholar and to be printed in the Jewish Encyclopedia. However, scholarship must have its reasons. Let us look further to see what the scientific community had discovered that would warrant such a radical and perplexing statement. In his article on purity of race, Jacobs gives several important facts that were forcing the anthropologists of his day to reconsider the modern Jews' racial claims to be biblical Israel. In the study of craniometry, which involves the measurements of the skull, the evidence was clearly mounting against the modern Jews. After extensive samples were taken from a broad spectrum of Jewish groups worldwide, the conclusion was evident, Jacobs writes. They are predominantly brachiocephalic or broad-headed, while the Semites of Arabic origin are invariably delocephalic or long-headed. Okay? Simply put, all known Semites have historically been long-headed, but the modern Jews were predominantly round-headed. While Jacobs avoids conclusions, any personal conclusions, he relates a prevailing view of his time. Some anthropologists are inclined to associate the racial origins of the Jews not with the Semites, whose language they adopted, but with the Armenians and Hittites of Mesopotamia, whose broad skulls and curved noses they appear to have inherited. Okay, they're giving you all these places where you can find it, okay, in the encyclopedias. The findings of some anthropologists were leading them to conclude that the modern Jews were not, in fact, Semites at all, but rather descendants of the ancient Hittites. Jacobs, however, was personally hesitant to confess that the Jews were not the Jews, simply because of the profound implications it imposed. Okay, he also wrote the article on anthropology, and there declared, much turns out upon the preliminary question whether contemporary Jews are of the same race as those mentioned in the Bible. Jacobs obviously realized the implications of the data he was receiving. It suggested the revolutionary idea that the Jews were not in fact the Jews. So here's it, they're telling you that the facts actually prove this, but he knows because of his position he can't tell the truth. So just because you have certain positions, and that's what's happening even to today. People have certain positions, okay? They have certain positions and they can't say the truth because of the implications. Then, because if you figure out that those aren't the Jews, then your next step should be, who are the Jews? See, the whole world has been realizing even before this pandemic happened that there's something amiss, there's something wrong, but they never took the second step. They figured something was wrong with Ish over there, but they never took the second step to figure out who it is because they don't want to know. Because as we said before, they call us black, African Americans, Negroes, colored, whatever they want to call us. As long as because as long as they call us that, they get to make up the rules as far as their punishment. As soon as they figure out who the real Israelites are, then that's it. Then they know that our Father is going to be the one that's going to be going out and delivering these punishments. So, like I said, these are Jewish people they're telling on themselves. I said I don't have to do it. I said that they'll do it themselves. Okay, so let me continue. He again presented the anthropological evidence, the cranial measurements of the modern Jews, stating their skulls are mainly brachiocephalic. That is, the breadth is generally over 80% of the length. This has been used as an argument against the purity of race, as most Semites, like the Arabs and Syrians, are dolichocephalic, or long-headed. Jacobs avoids any personal conclusions, and that's what he does. He gives you the information, but he does not give you any conclusions. He leaves the conclusions up to you. He was the former president of the Jewish Historical Society of England, and obviously could not bring himself to break with the great strength of the Jewish tradition. You see, he can't break from the Jewish tradition. It's a fact. It says it's a tradition. It says, but Jacobs was not the only Jewish scholar of his day that has been attempting to come to terms with the startling discoveries of his time. After all, it was the talk of the Jewish community. The haunting question persisted: were the Jews really the Jews? In this article on craniometry, Jewish scholar Maurice Fishberg provides a more comprehensive treatment of the Jewish cranial findings that were turning the Jewish world upside down. And what we'll do is, I'm just only going to read a couple of pages right now. I said because I didn't want to read, there's actually more, and maybe I'll make some more videos giving you guys some more of the information, or I'll put some more of the information on the website. I'll just send some more of the pictures and have the brothers put the information on the website so you guys can read more. Okay? So them being the true people has been something that's been, burning in their minds for a very long time. And they know they can't prove it, so therefore they get upset when you even bring it up. So why is it so important for us to always be directed to European history, European plight? And then all the people over here, the Most High shows the people over here, all their plight over here has been ignored, and it's still being ignored. Now you see why, like, all of a sudden now they try to divert, Deshaun Jackson to the plight in the three parts. Everything's about over there. No, don't look over here. Don't look at what we did to you guys over here. Just look at what we did over here. Oh yeah, look at this guy. Go talk to this guy because he was in in the Holocaust, a Holocaust survivor. Go talk to him so they can divert you over there. Everything's about diversion. Everything's about diverting us to look over there and never look over here. Oh, what, probably over 100 million. Just, how many hundreds of millions have they killed when they got here? I got books where it talks about they've never seen any kind of death as the death that was over here. As soon as they got here, all of the plagues that were unleashed on our people, all the death and destruction, the encomienda system where they came and took the land and worked our people to death. Then the other nations came over here and did the same thing, enslaving our people, bringing slaves all over the place, taking slaves all over the place from here as well, bringing slaves from other places. I mean, but why don't we ever talk about that? Why don't we ever, where are the reparations for the people that went through that here? You see that they take our, but they take our resources and our money and they ship it off to the three parts. Everything's about the three parts. So it should be making a lot of sense. Them trying to, get all upset, puff up their chest about someone even, questioning who they are. But then all the other information about, how much money they're getting. You have to go and take a look for that. You got to go check that out. The book that actually gives you all this information. That's only 3 pages. This is a big book. It's a huge book. A lot of information in here. I said, so this was copyrighted in 1977. It's very difficult to get your hands on, because then when you get your hands on this, and then all of a sudden you start to see how it's white on. This is white on white crime right here. They always talk about how it's black on. They'll talk about black on black crime. Well, this is a huge fight right here. Because these, like I said, these Saxons here in this book, they think that they're the chosen people of the Most High. So they're going at it with Ish, and they're bringing out all this information about who they are. Because, like I said, it's no foregone conclusion who they are. They were actually, and there's about 7 to 10 pages of information, I think, in that chapter alone that goes into more of this. So we'll even go into it even more. So let's start talking about what's, the plight of our people right here. Stop trying to force us to look at the plight of other nations. Those other nations have nothing to do with us. Those other nations have not cared about all the things that we've gone through. So why is it so important for us to care about what they've gone through? All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.